I stood in the CEO's office, watching a Department of Defense general's face turn crimson with rage as he slammed classified documents onto Richard Brennan's mahogany desk. 20 government data centers had gone dark overnight. 15 years I'd built and maintained every security protocol for those facilities. Yesterday, I was fired and replaced by the CEO's daughter's TikToker cousin. Now, this three-star general was demanding answers about a catastrophic breach that shut down Pentagon substations, NSA research labs, and military installations across Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. His voice cut through the tension like a blade. Who authorized access to classified defense networks? I realized my termination had just triggered a national security crisis. My name is Lainey Patterson, and until yesterday, I was the IT security director at CyberGuard Solutions. 15 years ago, Richard Brennan hired me straight out of Virginia Tech with a computer science degree and dreams of protecting America's digital infrastructure. I was 22, eager to prove myself in a field dominated by men twice my age. Richard saw potential in my thesis on military-grade encryption protocols and gave me a chance when bigger companies wouldn't even interview me. CyberGuard started as a scrappy tech firm in a converted warehouse outside Alexandria. 3 employees, 2 computers, and 1 government contract to maintain security systems at a single Army research facility. I remember the excitement of walking into that first data center, seeing rows of servers humming with classified information that kept our country safe. Richard taught me that cybersecurity wasn't just about firewalls and passwords. It was about understanding that every line of code stood between democracy and chaos. Over the years, CyberGuard grew into a $200 million government contractor. I grew with it, climbing from junior technician to senior analyst to department head. My responsibilities expanded to cover 20 military installations across the eastern seaboard, Pentagon annexes, NSA substations, defense research laboratories, communications hubs that coordinated everything from satellite networks to submarine operations. Each facility required custom security protocols, redundant fail-safes, and constant monitoring for emerging threats. Richard became more than a boss. With my parents gone since college and no siblings, he filled a paternal role I desperately needed. He attended my graduation when I earned my master's degree in cybersecurity. He visited me in the hospital after a car accident, left me bedridden for 3 weeks. When other companies tried recruiting me with higher salaries, Richard would smile and say, "Lainey, you're not just protecting data. You're protecting the people who depend on that data to come home safe." Those words motivated me through countless sacrifices. I worked Christmas mornings while families opened presents. I missed college reunions, birthday parties, and romantic relationships because threats don't take holidays. My apartment became a secondary office walls covered with network diagrams and security protocols. I told myself the loneliness was worth it. America's enemies never slept, so neither could I. My track record was perfect. 0 successful breaches, 0 system downtime, consistent top ratings on Department of Defense security audits. Military personnel at those 20 facilities trusted me to keep their information safe. Generals and admirals knew my name, respected my expertise, and sought my recommendations on emerging cybersecurity challenges. I built reputation on reliability, integrity, and unwavering dedication to protecting classified information. 3 months ago, everything started changing. Richard's daughter Sarah graduated from Northwestern University with a marketing degree and immediately joined CyberGuard as strategic operations consultant. At 24, Sarah possessed her father's charisma, but none of his technical understanding. She questioned established security protocols during meetings, suggesting we modernize our approach with cloud-based solutions and mobile accessibility. I patiently explained why air-gapped systems were essential for classified work. Physical separation from internet networks prevented remote attacks. Manual authentication processes ensured human oversight of critical access points. These weren't outdated methods. They were proven defenses against sophisticated foreign intelligence services, constantly probing for vulnerabilities. Sarah dismissed my explanations with practiced corporate speak about innovative thinking and adaptive strategies. She brought her cousin Marcus Coleman to office holiday parties, introducing him as a digital marketing specialist with expertise in contemporary communication platforms. Marcus was a TikTok influencer with 500,000 followers who created dance videos and lifestyle content for Generation Z audiences. I watched Marcus filming TikToks in our lobby, then gradually migrating toward more sensitive areas of the building. Security protocol strictly prohibited personal devices in classified zones, but Sarah insisted her cousin needed authentic workplace content for his platform. When I documented these violations and reported them to Richard, he waved off my concerns. Sarah's bringing fresh perspectives, Lainey. Maybe you're too rigid, Richard said during our weekly meeting. The defense industry needs younger voices to stay relevant. Marcus began asking detailed questions about network architecture during casual conversations. He'd corner me in the break room, claiming curiosity about cybersecurity careers. His questions were too specific, too focused on vulnerabilities rather than general operations. When I mentioned this to Sarah, she accused me of being paranoid and unwelcoming to family members. The situation escalated when Sarah started proposing fundamental changes to our security infrastructure. She wanted internet-connected backup systems, mobile device integration, and third-party software solutions that would compromise our air-gapped protections. I fought these proposals in every meeting, explaining how each suggestion created attack vectors for foreign adversaries. Sarah reframed my opposition as resistance to progress. She told Richard I was stuck in the past and threatened by innovation. Other employees began viewing me as the obstinate old guard preventing company evolution. Sarah's youth and enthusiasm contrasted sharply with my technical caution and detailed security requirements. Last Friday afternoon, my world collapsed with a single email. The message appeared to come from Richard's account, requesting immediate transfer of all high-level security credentials to Marcus Coleman. The subject line read, "Urgent D.O.D. requirement. Immediate action needed." The email claimed Marcus needed emergency access to complete a weekend security audit requested by Pentagon officials. Every instinct screamed this was wrong. Marcus had no security clearance, no technical background, no legitimate reason for accessing classified systems. But the email included specific reference numbers that matched current Pentagon contracts. The formatting looked authentic, complete with Richard's digital signature and official company letterhead. I called Richard's office, but Sarah answered his phone. "Dad's in back-to-back meetings with defense contractors," she explained breathlessly. "This audit request came down from very high levels. Marcus has been cleared for temporary access while you handle the credential transfer. We need this completed before Monday, or we risk losing our biggest contracts." Against every protocol I'd followed for 15 years, I transferred high-level access codes to Marcus's newly created accounts. The process required multiple authentication steps, biometric verification, and encrypted password generation. Each step felt like betrayal of everything I'd built, but the pressure was overwhelming. Sarah emphasized repeatedly that failure to comply would jeopardize company relationships with Pentagon leadership. By evening, guilt consumed me. I tried calling Richard at home, but his phone went straight to voicemail. I drove to his house, finding it dark with no cars in the driveway. Neighbors mentioned he was visiting his sister in Richmond for the weekend. The sick realization hit me like a physical blow. Richard never sent that email. I'd been manipulated into compromising 15 years of perfect security protocols. Monday morning arrived with the weight of impending doom. I reached CyberGuard's parking lot at 6:30, hoping to rectify Friday's disaster before anyone discovered my credential transfer mistake. My keycard beeped red at the main entrance. The system denied access to someone who'd opened that door every morning for 15 years. Derek Williams, our head of physical security, emerged from the guard station with obvious discomfort. We'd worked together for 8 years, sharing coffee and conversation during countless late-night shifts. His weathered face couldn't hide the sympathy in his eyes as he approached. "Lainey, I'm sorry. I have orders to escort you to Mr. Brennan's office immediately," Derek said softly. "Your building access has been suspended pending a security review." The walk through familiar hallways felt surreal. Employees I'd mentored avoided eye contact. Colleagues who'd sought my advice on technical problems suddenly found their computer screens fascinating. Word had spread quickly through the company grapevine that something serious was happening with the IT security director. Richard's office door stood open, revealing a carefully orchestrated scene. Sarah sat beside her father's desk, immaculate, in a navy business suit that projected authority beyond her 24 years. HR Director Janet Murphy flanked Richard's other side, armed with a thick folder of documents. Richard himself looked exhausted, slumped in his leather chair with the defeated posture of a man about to betray his principles. "Lainey, please sit down," Richard said without meeting my eyes. "We need to discuss some serious concerns that have come to our attention." Sarah took control of the conversation with practiced efficiency. Over the weekend, our security audit revealed unauthorized credential transfers that violate federal contracting regulations. These actions were traced directly to your administrative accounts and occurred during off-duty hours without proper authorization or oversight. She slid printed email logs across the polished conference table. The documents showed my name associated with the credential transfer request, but the timestamps and digital signatures had been altered. According to these fabricated records, I had initiated contact with Marcus, requesting his assistance with routine maintenance procedures that required elevated access privileges. Furthermore, Sarah continued, her voice adopting the cold tone of corporate prosecution. "Multiple employees have reported concerning behavioral patterns, suggesting resistance to company policies and harassment of family members. Your documented objections to operational improvements and inappropriate questioning of personnel decisions demonstrate a pattern of insubordination that we can no longer tolerate." Janet Murphy opened her folder, revealing termination documents with my name already printed in official letterhead. "Effective immediately, your employment with CyberGuard Solutions is terminated for cause. This designation means forfeiture of severance benefits, immediate suspension of health insurance, and confiscation of all company property, including security clearances." I stared at Richard, waiting for him to intervene, to remember 15 years of loyalty and perfect service. His silence spoke louder than words. The man I'd considered a surrogate father was choosing his daughter's version of events over documented evidence of my integrity. "This isn't about personal relationships." Richard finally spoke, his voice barely audible. "Business needs change, and sometimes difficult decisions are necessary for company survival. Your contributions over the years are appreciated, but we must prioritize current operational requirements." The words cut deeper than any professional reprimand. Richard had reduced 15 years of dedication to appreciated contributions. Sarah's manipulation had successfully rewritten history, transforming me from trusted security expert into dangerous liability-threatening company stability. As Janet escorted me to my office for personal item collection, I overheard Marcus's voice echoing from the conference room down the hall. He was speaking to someone on speakerphone, his casual tone contrasting sharply with the gravity of what had just occurred. "Yeah, I'm in. Full access to all 20 sites, the old lady's gone," Marcus said, apparently unaware that his voice carried through the thin walls. "Phase 2 begins tonight. Our contact at the embassy confirmed the timeline." The voice responding carried a distinct Eastern European accent, possibly Russian or Ukrainian. "Excellent work. Remember, complete data extraction before morning. Leave no traces that could compromise secondary operations." My blood turned cold as the implications became clear. This wasn't about nepotism or family favoritism. Marcus wasn't just an unqualified TikToker getting a job through connections. He was a foreign operative conducting espionage against United States military installations, and I'd been manipulated into providing him access to the most sensitive defense networks on the eastern seaboard. Derek appeared beside my desk as I packed 15 years of personal belongings into cardboard boxes. His expression showed genuine distress at watching my career destroyed by people who didn't understand what I'd built. "Lainey, something's not right about all this," Derek whispered, glancing around to ensure we weren't overheard. "I've watched you work for 8 years. You don't make mistakes, especially security mistakes. And that Marcus kid gives me the creeps. Never seen protocols change this fast in my entire career." I wanted to explain everything, but my security clearance suspension meant I couldn't discuss classified information with anyone lacking proper authorization. Even Derek, despite his physical security role, wasn't cleared for the level of detail necessary to understand the scope of what Marcus could access with my transferred credentials. "Just watch the news tonight," I told Derek as we reached the parking lot. "If I'm right about what's happening, you'll know soon enough." Driving home, I watched CyberGuard's building shrink in my rearview mirror. 15 years of my life contained within those walls, now controlled by people who'd systematically destroyed my reputation to advance their hidden agenda. Sarah had positioned me perfectly as the scapegoat for whatever disaster Marcus was preparing to unleash on America's defense infrastructure. At 3:17 in the morning, my phone's emergency alert system jolted me from restless sleep with the piercing tone reserved for natural disasters and national security threats. The screen displayed multiple news notifications, social media alerts, and text messages from former colleagues whose numbers I hadn't seen in years. Breaking. Massive cybersecurity incident affects multiple government facilities across eastern United States. Read the CNN alert. Military installations on lockdown following simultaneous network breaches. I grabbed my laptop, fingers trembling as I navigated to major news websites. Every major outlet led with variations of the same story. 20 government facilities had gone dark at 2:47 a.m., exactly 6 hours after Marcus had mentioned Phase 2 begins tonight in his overheard phone conversation. Twitter exploded with videos from military personnel posting from base perimeters. Flashing emergency lights illuminated confused soldiers gathering in parking lots. Naval Station Norfolk, Pentagon City Annex, NSA facility at Fort Gordon. Every installation connected to CyberGuard's security network had simultaneously locked down when their computer systems detected unauthorized access attempts. My personal phone buzzed with a text from Derek Williams, "Locked down at headquarters. FBI here, they're asking about you. Sarah told them you had revenge motive. Be careful." The news coverage painted an increasingly dire picture. Defense Secretary Patricia Morrison held an emergency press conference at 4 a.m. flanked by FBI Director and Homeland Security officials. Her grim expression conveyed the severity of what had occurred without revealing classified details. At approximately 2:47 this morning, multiple defense installations detected coordinated cyber intrusion attempts, Secretary Morrison announced. As a precautionary measure, affected facilities have implemented lockdown protocols while security teams assess potential compromises. We are working closely with law enforcement to identify the source of these attacks. By dawn, FBI Cybersecurity Division vehicles surrounded CyberGuard's building. News helicopters circled overhead, their cameras, capturing federal agents carrying computer equipment and boxes of documents from the offices where I'd worked for 15 years. Local news reporters stood behind police barricades, speculating about the connection between the defense contractor and the unprecedented security breach. Special Agent Carol Henderson emerged from CyberGuard's main entrance, her severe expression suggesting she'd discovered evidence of serious criminal activity. Behind her, Sarah Brennan walked alongside her father, both wearing the practiced expressions of victims whose family business had been violated by trusted employees. Richard faced a cluster of microphones and cameras, his voice heavy with manufactured grief. CyberGuard Solutions has always maintained the highest standards of cybersecurity and personnel screening. We are cooperating fully with federal investigators to identify how our systems were compromised by what appears to be an insider threat stemming from recent personnel issues. Sarah stepped forward, her performance worthy of professional actors. Our company has served this nation's defense needs for 15 years without incident. We're devastated that someone we trusted could betray not just our family business, but the brave men and women who depend on secure communications to protect our country. The implication was crystal clear. I was the disgruntled former employee with access motive and opportunity to conduct the attack. Sarah's carefully crafted narrative positioned my termination as the trigger for a revenge plot against government installations that had trusted me with their security. FBI forensics teams traced the breach to credentials transferred last Friday evening, the exact codes I'd given Marcus under false pretenses. But digital forensics showed the attacks originated from my supposedly deactivated accounts, which should have been impossible after my termination. Marcus had vanished completely. His apartment stood empty, cleaned out with no forwarding address. His TikTok account was deleted, all social media presence erased as if he'd never existed. Company records showed no employee named Marcus Coleman in their system. HR files had been altered to remove any mention of Sarah's cousin or his access requests. The paper trail that should have documented his presence at CyberGuard had been systematically eliminated, leaving me as the only person who could have possessed the credentials used in the attack. General Patricia Morrison, recently promoted from her previous major rank, arrived at CyberGuard with a Department of Defense security team. The gravity of the situation demanded leadership from the highest levels of military cybersecurity. 20 critical facilities remained offline, billions of dollars in defense contracts suspended, and America's enemies potentially gaining access to classified information that could compromise ongoing operations worldwide. The general's press conference that afternoon eliminated any doubt about the breach's significance. Someone with intimate knowledge of defense network architecture orchestrated these attacks, General Morrison stated. The precision and scope suggest years of preparation by individuals familiar with both system vulnerabilities and security protocols. Watching from my apartment, I understood the terrible irony of the situation. My 15 years of building impenetrable security systems had made me the perfect scapegoat when those systems were compromised from within. Sarah and Marcus had exploited my reputation for integrity, knowing that my trusted status would provide cover for their espionage operation until it was too late to prevent the damage. The news coverage grew more damaging throughout the day. Unnamed government sources leaked details about my access-level security clearance and recent termination. Conservative media outlets suggested the breach represented the dangers of prioritizing employee feelings over national security. Liberal commentators questioned why a disgruntled contractor could access multiple military installations simultaneously. None of them understood what had really happened. Foreign intelligence operatives had spent months, possibly years, planning an operation that required removing the one person capable of detecting their infiltration. They'd manipulated family relationships, exploited corporate vulnerabilities, and positioned an innocent cybersecurity expert as the fall guy for international espionage. Realizing that official channels were closed to me while under FBI suspicion, I decided to conduct my own investigation from the shadows. My personal laptop, equipped with VPN software and encrypted communication tools, became my weapon against the conspiracy that had destroyed my career and threatened national security. The first breakthrough came from reverse engineering Marcus Coleman's digital footprint. His deleted TikTok account might have vanished from American servers, but international data archives preserved cached copies of his content. Working through foreign proxy servers, I accessed archived videos that revealed a sophisticated deception operation. Marcus's real name was Alexei Volkov, a Russian intelligence operative whose TikTok platform served as communication channel with handlers in Moscow. His dance videos contained coded messages embedded in movement sequences that corresponded to intelligence collection requirements. Timestamps of his CyberGuard office visits aligned perfectly with known Russian embassy personnel movements in Washington, D.C. Social media forensics revealed Alexei's preparation for the operation stretched back 2 years. His TikTok influence was artificially manufactured through bot networks operated by Internet Research Agency, the same organization responsible for election interference campaigns. The cheerful American college graduate persona was an elaborate cover identity supported by forged academic records and manufactured social connections. Cross-referencing his coded communications with intelligence reports available through cybersecurity forums revealed the scope of Russian operations targeting defense contractors nationwide. CyberGuard wasn't their only target, just their most successful penetration due to Sarah's cooperation and my unwitting assistance in providing access credentials. Derek Williams risked his job by secretly meeting me at an all-night diner 40 miles outside Alexandria. His weathered hands shook as he slid an encrypted flash drive across the scratched Formica table, glancing nervously at other late-night customers nursing coffee and fighting exhaustion. "I copied everything before FBI confiscated the original drives," Derek whispered. 15 years watching you build these systems, Laney. I know you didn't break them." The flash drive contained security footage that FBI hadn't seen recorded by backup cameras Derek had installed without management knowledge. The videos showed Sarah directly instructing Marcus on which computer terminals to access, which security protocols to circumvent, and which classified databases to prioritize for data extraction. One recording captured Sarah's voice clearly. "Dad doesn't need to know operational details. Just collect what they're paying for and make sure the trail leads back to Laney. She's been the obvious suspect since day one." Additional evidence revealed Sarah's financial records accessed through Derek's administrative privileges as head of physical security. Mysterious payments totaling over $2 million had been deposited into offshore accounts she controlled, originating from shell companies linked to Russian money laundering operations. The timeline of payments corresponded exactly with Marcus's increasing access to sensitive areas and classified information. Sarah's gambling addiction provided the initial vulnerability that foreign operatives exploited. 2 years earlier, during a Las Vegas business conference, she'd accumulated substantial debts at high-stakes poker tables frequented by Russian intelligence assets. They'd offered debt forgiveness in exchange for inside information about CyberGuard's defense contracts and security procedures. Derek's investigation revealed the sophisticated nature of the recruitment operation. Sarah wasn't a naive daughter corrupted by foreign influence. She was a knowing participant who'd spent months systematically weakening CyberGuard's security protocols while positioning me for eventual termination when the operation reached its climax. Armed with comprehensive evidence of the conspiracy, I contacted investigative journalist Amanda Foster at The Washington Post. Her previous reporting on cybersecurity threats and foreign interference made her the ideal person to expose the truth about what had really happened at CyberGuard. Amanda's research expanded the scope of the story far beyond a single compromised defense contractor. Sarah's recruitment was part of a broader Russian campaign targeting family members of executives at companies holding classified government contracts. The operation exploited nepotism, family loyalty, and generational conflicts to place assets inside America's defense industrial base. Marcus's identity as Alexei Volkov led to connections with other Russian operatives who'd infiltrated technology companies, research institutions, and government agencies across the eastern seaboard. The CyberGuard operation was designed to serve as proof of concept for attacks against larger, more significant targets, including major aerospace manufacturers and nuclear research facilities. Amanda's investigation also revealed the timeline that made my termination essential to the operation's success. Foreign intelligence services knew that leaving me in position would inevitably result in detection of their infiltration attempts. My 15 years of expertise made me the primary obstacle to successful espionage operations against the 20 military installations CyberGuard protected. The plan required removing me at precisely the moment when the breach was scheduled to occur. Too early, and replacement security personnel might discover suspicious activity. Too late, and I would detect the intrusion attempts before significant data could be extracted. Sarah's manipulation had achieved perfect timing for maximizing damage while minimizing detection. Working 18-hour days from my apartment, Amanda and I assembled an airtight case proving international espionage, corporate infiltration, and systematic manipulation of family relationships for foreign intelligence purposes. The evidence package included financial records, coded communications security footage, and testimony from Derek Williams, risking his career to expose the truth. 3 weeks after the initial breach, Amanda's exposé appeared on the Washington Post's front page under the headline, "Defense Contractor Infiltrated by Russian Intelligence Network." The article detailed Sarah's recruitment, Marcus's false identity, and the systematic security compromise that enabled foreign access to America's most sensitive military installation. Public outrage shifted dramatically from disgruntled employee revenge to foreign attack on national security. FBI director held an emergency press conference acknowledging that their investigation had been misdirected by false evidence and manufactured suspect profiles. General Morrison publicly stated that former CyberGuard employee Lainey Patterson is no longer considered a person of interest in this investigation. The night Amanda's article published, Sarah Brennan disappeared from her Arlington condominium. Private aviation records showed a chartered jet departing Dulles International Airport bound for Montenegro, a country without extradition treaties with the United States. Richard Brennan was arrested at Reagan National Airport 12 hours later, attempting to board a commercial flight to join his daughter with suitcases containing over $5 million in cash and bearer bonds. FBI formally cleared me of all suspicion 72 hours after Amanda's article exposed the Russian intelligence operation. Special Agent Carol Henderson personally visited my apartment to deliver the official letter of exoneration, accompanied by a formal apology for the premature accusations that had destroyed my reputation and livelihood. Ms. Patterson, the Bureau recognizes that our initial investigation was compromised by false evidence deliberately planted by foreign operatives, Agent Henderson stated. Your cooperation in providing evidence that led to the exposure of this espionage network demonstrates the patriotism and integrity that should have been obvious from the beginning. Derek Williams was immediately promoted to interim security director at CyberGuard, his first action being a phone call requesting my consultation on rebuilding the company's compromised systems. The conversation felt surreal after 3 weeks of professional exile and public suspicion. "Lainey, we need you back," Derek said, his voice heavy with emotion. "Nobody else understands these systems well enough to determine what was compromised and how to fix it. The D.O.D is demanding complete infrastructure replacement before they'll consider renewing any contracts." General Morrison's visit to my apartment that afternoon transformed my personal crisis into an unprecedented opportunity to serve national security at the highest levels. The general's presence in my modest living room surrounded by cybersecurity textbooks and network diagrams emphasized the gravity of the situation facing America's defense infrastructure. "Ms. Patterson, we need someone who understands these systems and can't be corrupted," General Morrison said bluntly. "This breach exposed vulnerabilities that extend far beyond CyberGuard. We're offering you a position as senior security consultant for D.O.D contractor oversight nationwide. The salary was triple my previous income. More importantly, the authority included a power to audit and restructure security protocols at any defense contractor handling classified information. Never again would family relationships or corporate politics compromise America's cybersecurity infrastructure. Your job is ensuring this never happens again, the general continued. You'll have direct access to Pentagon leadership, unlimited resources for security improvements, and authority to terminate contracts with companies that refuse to implement proper safeguards. My first assignment involved rebuilding CyberGuard's entire infrastructure using next-generation security protocols I'd wanted to implement for years, but couldn't due to budget constraints and corporate resistance. Working 18-hour days, I designed systems so secure that successful infiltration would require cooperation from multiple independent sources, making inside jobs nearly impossible to execute. The new architecture incorporated quantum encryption, biometric verification at multiple security levels, and artificial intelligence monitoring that could detect unusual access patterns before any damage occurred. Every protocol I'd proposed during my 15 years at CyberGuard, only to be overruled by cost concerns or convenience arguments, became federal requirements for all defense contractors nationwide. Collaboration with NSA cybersecurity experts elevated my technical knowledge to levels impossible to achieve in private industry. Government resources allowed implementation of experimental security technologies that defense contractors couldn't afford individually. The 20 compromised facilities became testing grounds for revolutionary cybersecurity innovations that would eventually protect military installations worldwide. International law enforcement agencies tracked Alexei Volkov to Moscow, where he'd been awarded medals for successful intelligence operations against Western targets. His true identity revelation led to a diplomatic crisis as American officials demanded extradition for espionage charges, carrying potential life sentences. Russian government denial of any knowledge of his activities fooled nobody familiar with intelligence operations. The personal restoration felt as significant as the professional vindication. Amanda Foster's follow-up articles established me as the cybersecurity expert who'd prevented much worse disasters through courage and integrity. Speaking requests poured in from defense contractors seeking guidance on protecting themselves from similar infiltration attempts. Former CyberGuard employees reached out with apologies and job offers, finally understanding how manipulated they'd been by Sarah's systematic campaign to isolate me from colleagues. The professional relationships I'd thought were permanently destroyed began rebuilding on stronger foundations of mutual respect and shared commitment to national security. Derek became permanent security director under my mentorship, implementing physical security measures that complemented my digital protections. Our working relationship evolved into genuine friendship based on shared values and professional dedication, rather than corporate hierarchy and workplace proximity. Congressional testimony provided opportunities to advocate for cybersecurity improvements that extended beyond defense contractors to critical infrastructure nationwide. My experience became case study material for federal agencies, training personnel to identify and counter foreign infiltration attempts targeting American technology companies. The broader impact of exposing the Russian operation led to federal legislation requiring independent security audits for all companies handling classified information. The CyberGuard Prevention Act mandated that family members of executives undergo thorough background investigations before accessing sensitive areas or information related to government contracts. 6 months after my termination from CyberGuard, I stood before the Pentagon's cybersecurity leadership as the youngest woman ever appointed to lead the Department of Defense Cybersecurity Task Force. The conference room overlooked the Potomac River. its windows reflecting morning sunlight across faces of military officials who now sought my expertise for protecting America's digital infrastructure. My responsibilities encompassed oversight of more than 200 defense contractors nationwide, each requiring customized security protocols based on their specific government relationships and classification levels. The rapid response team I assembled could investigate potential insider threats within hours, preventing foreign operatives from establishing footholds in critical technology companies. The psychological profiles we developed helped identify recruitment targets before foreign intelligence services could approach them with corruption offers. Gambling debts, financial difficulties, family problems, and professional grievances became red flags triggering enhanced security monitoring and support resources for vulnerable employees. Congressional testimony about cybersecurity education needs in government contracting led to mandatory training programs for all personnel handling classified information. The curriculum included case studies based on my experience at CyberGuard, teaching recognition of manipulation techniques and proper reporting procedures for suspicious activities. Appointment to the NSA Advisory Board provided access to intelligence about foreign cyber operations targeting American infrastructure. The scope of Russian, Chinese, and Iranian efforts to infiltrate defense contractors was far more extensive than public awareness suggested. My expertise became crucial for developing countermeasures against increasingly sophisticated espionage campaigns. Personal growth accompanied professional success as therapy helped me process the betrayal by Richard, whom I'd considered family for 15 years. Counseling sessions revealed how my career dedication had become an excuse for avoiding intimate relationships and personal connections outside the workplace. Derek Williams approached our relationship with patience and understanding, recognizing that trust wouldn't rebuild overnight after experiencing such profound betrayal. Our dinner conversations evolved from security protocols to personal dreams, shared values, and hopes for futures that extended beyond professional accomplishments. Reconnecting with college friends required acknowledging how completely my career had consumed my personal identity. Sarah's manipulation had succeeded partly because I'd isolated myself from relationships that might have provided emotional support and alternative perspectives on workplace dynamics. Teaching weekend cybersecurity classes for women entering technology fields became personally fulfilling in ways that government contracts never achieved. Sharing hard-learned lessons about workplace navigation, professional integrity, and standing up to authority helped other women avoid similar vulnerabilities to manipulation and exploitation. The informal network of women in cybersecurity that grew from these classes provided mutual support for navigating male-dominated industries, where technical expertise was often questioned or undermined. Scholarship funds I established at my alma mater encouraged young women to pursue cybersecurity careers with confidence and determination. General Morrison's revelation of classified information about my termination provided the final piece of understanding about what had really occurred at CyberGuard. My access removal had triggered automated security protocols that detected credential anomalies within hours of Marcus's breach attempts. Your firing actually accelerated our discovery of the conspiracy, the general explained during a private briefing. The system detected unauthorized access patterns immediately after your credentials were transferred. We were already investigating CyberGuard when the shutdown occurred. The security architecture I'd built had included fail-safes that even I didn't fully appreciate. My termination created digital footprints that intelligence agencies could trace, exposing the Russian operation faster than if I'd remained in position to gradually discover the infiltration through routine monitoring. Sarah's plan to remove oversight had backfired by triggering the very detection systems she'd hoped to circumvent. My integrity had become embedded in the security protocols themselves, creating automatic responses to suspicious activities that continued protecting classified information even after my dismissal. Justice arrived through international cooperation and persistent investigation. Sarah Brennan's extradition from Montenegro followed months of diplomatic pressure and evidence sharing with European law enforcement agencies. Her trial for espionage and treason would likely result in life imprisonment for betraying military secrets to foreign adversaries. Richard Brennan's 15-year sentence reflected his cooperation with authorities in exposing the full scope of Russian infiltration operations targeting defense contractors. His victim impact statements showed genuine remorse for choosing family loyalty over national security, though the damage to military operations would take years to fully assess. The prisoner exchange that returned Alexei Volkov to Russian custody dismantled an entire intelligence network responsible for infiltrating technology companies across multiple NATO countries. Counterintelligence agencies used information from his interrogation to identify and arrest dozens of foreign operatives who'd been operating undetected for years. CyberGuard's liquidation and asset forfeiture provided $200 million for compensating affected government agencies and rebuilding compromised security systems. All 20 data centers received complete infrastructure replacement using my revolutionary security protocols, creating the most advanced cybersecurity architecture ever deployed for military applications. The facility was renamed Patterson Cybersecurity Center, housing the rapid response team I'd built to prevent similar attacks against America's defense infrastructure. Standing in the lobby where Marcus had once filmed his TikTok videos, I felt profound satisfaction knowing that foreign operatives would never again find such fertile ground for espionage operations. 1 year after my termination from CyberGuard, I stood in the completely rebuilt facility, now known as Patterson Cybersecurity Center, watching the American flag wave above an institution dedicated to protecting our nation's most sensitive digital infrastructure. The transformation from compromised defense contractor to cutting-edge security operations center represented everything I'd learned about resilience, integrity, and the power of standing up for principles even when it costs everything. Derek Williams served as operations director, our professional partnership having evolved into a personal relationship built on mutual respect, shared values, and deep understanding of each other's commitment to serving something greater than ourselves. His steady presence provided emotional anchor during the turbulent months of rebuilding my career and reputation from the ashes of betrayal. General Morrison, now Pentagon, cybersecurity chief, credited our team with preventing multiple foreign infiltration attempts across the defense industrial base. The Patterson protocols had become international standards for cybersecurity architecture implemented by NATO allies and adopted by critical infrastructure operators worldwide. Wall displays showcased photographs of the 20 military installations now protected by security systems I designed after learning hard lessons about trust, vulnerability, and the price of complacency. Each image represented American service members whose communications, operations, and classified information remained secure because of reforms born from personal and professional devastation. The life lesson that emerged from my ordeal fundamentally changed my understanding of loyalty, integrity, and professional relationships. Richard's paternal approval had meant everything until I realized I'd been seeking validation from someone whose values ultimately differed from my own when tested by family pressure and financial considerations. True security comes from trusting your own judgment, especially when authority figures disagree with your assessment of risks and vulnerabilities. Professional integrity requires courage to speak uncomfortable truths, even when silence would preserve relationships and career advancement. Sometimes losing everything becomes the only way to discover what you're truly capable of achieving. My apartment now overflowed with photographs of genuine relationships built on mutual respect rather than workplace proximity. Weekend dinners with team members who'd become chosen family replaced solitary evenings spent reviewing security protocols. Work-life balance allowed time for hobbies, travel, and personal growth that had been neglected during 15 years of obsessive career focus. Handwritten thank you letters from military personnel whose bases I'd secured provided daily reminders that cybersecurity work extended far beyond technical challenges to protecting real people, serving their country in dangerous circumstances. College speaking engagements inspired new generations of cybersecurity professionals committed to defending democratic values against authoritarian threats. Scholarship recipients sent regular updates about their studies and career progress, creating legacy impact that extended beyond my immediate professional accomplishments. Book deals and documentary rights provided financial security I had never achieved as an employee, along with platforms for educating public audiences about cybersecurity threats facing modern democracies. Standing in my Pentagon office overlooking the Potomac River, I understood how every painful moment had led to this position where I could protect not just individual companies, but America's entire defense infrastructure. Sarah's betrayal revealed my true calling wasn't serving corporate interests, but safeguarding national security at the highest levels. Richard's weakness taught me that leadership means making difficult decisions based on principles rather than personal relationships. Marcus's deception demonstrated the importance of trusting professional instincts over convenient explanations that minimize uncomfortable realities about sophisticated threats. Being fired had been the greatest gift disguised as the worst disaster. Corporate employment had limited my impact to 20 facilities owned by one company. Government service allowed protection of hundreds of installations across multiple agencies and allied nations. Personal relationships built on shared mission proved more fulfilling than workplace connections based on hierarchy and professional advancement. The work now carried meaning beyond paychecks or career recognition. Every security protocol I designed, every threat I identified, every infiltration attempt I prevented, protected the democratic institutions that allowed free societies to flourish against authoritarian regimes seeking to undermine liberty through cyber warfare. Professional integrity isn't about being perfect. It's about doing right when personal costs seem overwhelming. The relationships that survive integrity tests become stronger foundations for future growth than connections built on convenience and mutual benefit. Trust your expertise, stand for your values, and let consequences teach the lessons they're meant to impart. Derek knocked on my office door as evening shadows stretched across the Pentagon parking lot. "Ready to go home?" he asked, smiling at the woman who'd learned to balance professional excellence with personal fulfillment. Home meant shared space, shared dreams, and shared commitment to protecting what mattered most. I locked my office door knowing tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities to serve democracy against those who sought to destroy it through deception and infiltration. Walking through Pentagon corridors toward the parking garage, I reflected on the journey from isolated expert to connected leader. The fired security director had become guardian of national cybersecurity, finally understanding that true protection comes from building systems strong enough to survive without constant supervision and relationships deep enough to withstand tests of character. The woman who'd once worked alone to protect 20 data centers now led teams protecting thousands of installations worldwide. Sarah's betrayal had inadvertently created the cybersecurity leader America needed to face increasingly sophisticated threats from foreign adversaries seeking to undermine democratic institutions through corruption, infiltration, and exploitation of personal vulnerabilities. Justice wasn't just about punishing those who'd committed crimes. It was about building systems that prevented similar attacks from succeeding in the future. Every protocol we implemented, every person we trained, every threat we identified contributed to a safer world where democratic values could flourish against authoritarian attempts to destabilize free societies. The greatest victory wasn't personal vindication, but knowing that future Sarah Brennans and Marcus Colemans would find America's defense infrastructure prepared for their manipulation techniques. The Patterson Protocols would protect military installations for generations, ensuring that foreign operatives could never again exploit family relationships to compromise national security. Standing beneath the stars in the Pentagon parking lot, I realized that professional betrayal had led to personal transformation and national service beyond anything possible within corporate limitations. The woman who'd been fired for refusing to compromise her principles had become the guardian, ensuring others ever faced similar choices between career survival and national security. Derek took my hand as we walked toward our shared future. Two people who'd learned that true strength comes from standing together for principles that transcend personal advancement. The fired cybersecurity director had found her calling protecting democracy itself, and America was safer because of lessons learned through betrayal, resilience, and unwavering commitment to integrity. Have you ever experienced a situation where standing up for your principles cost you everything in the short term, but led to something far better than what you lost? Share your story in the comments below and let me know how you found the courage to do what was right when it seemed like the wrong choice for your career or relationships. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming betrayal, finding strength in adversity, and discovering that sometimes losing everything becomes the first step toward finding where you truly belong. Share this with someone who might need to hear that integrity always wins in the end, even when victory looks like defeat. Thank you for listening to my journey from corporate termination to national service. Remember that your expertise matters, your principles define you, and the courage to stand up for what's right will always lead you to where you're meant to be. Until next time, keep protecting what matters most, and never compromise your integrity for anyone who doesn't deserve your loyalty.